Why wasn't it on the FCA blacklist? Victims lose more than £72,000 to ABN Amro Isa scammers the regulator had known about for nearly a month. In March, ABN Amro warned FCA about copycat scammers. Victims lose significant sums after investing in the phony firm touting ISAs. FCA didn't blacklist the scam firm for nearly a month, banks say. If it had, victims may have been warned by George Nixon. For thisismoney.co.uk, published 7:35 British Summer Time, the 30th of July 2019. Updated 7:35 British Summer Time, the 30th of July 2019. 3 This Is Money readers have collectively lost tens of thousands of pounds to scammers, and the Financial Conduct Authority failed to warn savers about, despite it knowing of its existence for nearly a month. The victims deposited almost £100,000 into ABN Amro Asset Management, which touted inflation-busting ISA rates to savers in March and April this year, claiming to be a British arm of Dutch banking giant ABN Amro. One victim lost nearly £62,000 to the scam, while another and his wife each deposited in £10,000. A third victim lost a significant amount. All three had made deposits during a near month of inaction from the city regulator. Defrauded. We have been contacted by 3 readers who have lost huge sums of cash to this ABN Amro scam, and face a battle to get their money back. Picture posed by model. The genuine ABN Amro became aware of the scammers towards the end of March and stated on its website on March 27 it had told the FCA about its existence. This was so the FCA would put it on its blacklist, warning banks and savers about ABN Amro Asset Management. However, despite that warning, it didn't appear on the blacklist until after it was contacted by This Is Money at the end of April, who had been tipped off by a reader. Between the 27th of March and the 25th of April, when we published our story warning savers about ABN Amro Asset Management, these 3 victims paid more than £72,000 to the scammers. One reader and his wife deposited £10,000 each in 2 installments on the 1st of April and the 2nd of April, having completed their account application on the 29th of March. Scam. On the 27th of March 2019, ABN Amro published a warning on its website about scammers using its name to sell ISAs to UK savers. It said it had reported the fake firm to the FCA. Another of the victims paid in £15,000 on the 27th of March and a further £37,000 on the 5th of April, while the third told us they invested a second sum after the publication of the ABN Amro statement, initially opening an account before the warning was published. All 3 said they had done some due diligence, including checking the FCA's website and searching for ABN Amro Asset Management on Google, with the results suggesting there was no cause for alarm. One even said she called ABN Amro's legitimate UK arm but never received a warning. When This Is Money asked the FCA in April why the firm had not been blacklisted, it said that its blacklist was used by savers, firms and enforcement agencies, and it had to be sure the information was factually correct. But when contacted by us, it wasted no time putting ABN Amro Asset Management on its blacklist. It published a clone warning on the 25th of April, the same day as This Is Money published our story, which was based on the same statement published by ABN Amro on the 27th of March, where it said it had informed the FCA. The FCA did eventually publish a warning and put the firm on its blacklist, informing banks and savers about the scammers. However, this happened nearly a month later. On 25 April, ABN Amro told This Is Money it did not comment on discussions with regulators and could not confirm the exact date it made the FCA aware of the scammers, but it would be safe to assume it did so either on March 27 or before that. This Is Money has also sent a Freedom of Information request to the FCA asking when it was first contacted by ABN Amro about the scam firm's operation, but have not received a response. It raises more question about FCA. An inquiry is currently taking place into its handling of the London capital. This Is Money published a warning about ABN Amro Asset Management on April 25, after we were tipped off by a reader. This Is Money also recently reported how the FCA was similarly lax in its stewardship of authorized firms, with its own watchdog describing it as making serious failings that contributed to a young woman losing £13,000 in an investment scam because the FCA failed to remove an incorrect listing from 2005. Fraudsters took advantage of the FCA's blunder to create a fake firm and conned the woman out of her money, with the FCA only removing the listing 2 months after it was warned it was being exploited by fraudsters. The watchdog, the Financial Regulators Complaints Commissioner, recommended the FCA should pay back 50% of the loss, but the regulator refused. Were you to search for ABN Amro Asset Management now, the FCA's warning would appear in the top half of your results. In the case of ABN Amro Asset Management, if the FCA had acted when it was informed of the scam by one of the Netherlands' largest banks, there is a chance it could have prevented all three of our readers losing huge sums. If you were to Google ABN Amro Asset Management after the FCA finally published its warning, the warning appears in the upper half of the first page of search results. Meanwhile, This Is Money also asked two high street banks what the effect of putting a firm on the FCA's blacklist would be. One said its systems would pick up a warning such as the one published by the FCA on the 25th of April, while the other said it might do and that it tried to add such information in when it was published. The evidence therefore strongly suggests that the FCA bears a large amount of responsibility for our readers falling victim to these scammers, and that the FCA has learned little from the aftermath of London Capital. How did the scam happen? Two of the scam victims who have spoken to This Is Money say they were initially contacted by ABN Amro Asset Management by phone and email in mid-March 2019, having visited websites looking for top ISA rates. How the ABN Amro scam unfolded. Mid-March 2019, savers say they are contacted by ABN Amro Asset Management, offering inflation-busting ISA rates and professional-looking product leaflets. March 25, victim 1 said she signed an online ISA application form with the scammers. March 27, ABN Amro publishes a warning on its website saying it has reported ABN Amro Asset Management to the FCA for inclusion on its blacklist. March 27, victim 1 deposits £15,000 into an easy access ISA, paying 2.65%. March 29, victim 2 and his wife apply for a pair of one-year fixed-rate ISAs, paying 3% on complete application forms online. April 1/2, victim 2 and his wife deposit £10,000 each in 2 separate installments. April 5, victim 1 deposits a further £37,331.28 into her ISA. April 24, This Is Money is alerted to ABN Amro Asset Management by a reader who had been contacted. April 25, This Is Money publishes our story warning readers to beware of the scam. April 25, nearly a month after ABN Amro said it had contacted the FCA about ABN Amro Asset Management, the FCA finally publishes a scam warning about the firm. May 10, This Is Money begins to receive emails from readers who fell victim to the scam, all three of whom lost significant deposits between the 27th of March 27 and the 25th of April. As This Is Money has previously reported, those contacted were sent professional-looking product information documents detailing a set of terms and conditions, contact details and even FCA registration numbers. The ISAs also offered semi-believable rates, paying 2.65% on an easy access option and 3% on a one-year fixed. The current top rates at the time paid 1.47% and 1.62%, respectively. One of the victims said that there was nothing they felt was untoward about the process. He said that while he was called several times by someone from the fake firm, he was never very pushy. My thinking was he was keen to get his commission. The other said any fears she had were allayed very effectively. Both applications were completed online using DocuSign at the end of March, with one victim putting in £20,000 in 2 separate accounts, one for him and one for his wife, and the other putting in an initial £15,000. This Is Money has viewed copies of the application form and invoice of the initial deposit made by both victims, and also sent them to Anna Bose of website Savings Champion. She said there were a number of red flags, such as no reference to the Financial Services Compensation Scheme, the date being in a non-UK format, and inconsistency over what kind of an ISA it was, but said, there is no reason why an ordinary saver would think the application is odd, if they are not used to completing application forms. The victim who had deposited an initial £10,000 said he began to have misgivings after he was about to transfer a further £10,000, when he went To transfer the money, an automated warning message on his online banking alerted him to check the recipient of any monies was genuine. He then rang ABN Amro's UK office to ask about the division he had put his money into, and was then informed by its fraud officer that ABN Amro Asset Management was a scam. He reported the case to Action Fraud on the 16th of May and attempted to get his money back from the bank he had sent money to, but was unsuccessful. Savers began to be contacting in mid-March 2019 with offers like this one: authoritative-looking product information documents, detailed terms and conditions, and even an FCA registration number, though the phone number wasn't ABN's. The registration number linked to the bank's Luxembourg subsidiary, which had been sold off in 2018. He told This Is Money he is still being contacted by the fraudsters about putting more money into the scam. The other victim, who has lost almost £62,000 in total, completed her application form on the 25th of March, and pledged to deposit an initial £40,000. However, she ended up putting in £15,000 first of all, and the payment was not made until the 27th of March, the same day ABN Amro said it had contacted the FCA about the fraud. She invested a further £37,331.28 on the 5th of April. One victim of the scam sent This Is Money copies of the documents ABN Amro Asset Management had given him. This is the application form for a cash ISA supposedly paying 3%. The victim also sent This Is Money the transaction invoice for when he deposited £10,000 on April 1st. Payments were made out to Aurora Accounting. She told This Is Money she became concerned in early May when the number she had been given by the scammers failed and she no longer received any emails, having been constantly contacted since mid-March. The scammers told her that they had simply changed their phone number, but by this point she had come across This Is Money's story from the end of April and had contacted Action Fraud and her bank's fraud team, who are still investigating her case. What does the FCA say? This Is Money asked the FCA when it first received contact from ABN Amro and why it did not act when it was initially contacted, and only did so when contacted by This Is Money, nearly a month later. It told us while it aimed to publish warnings as soon as possible, it needed to ensure any information it put up was accurate. It said before issuing a clone alert it needed to be sure all information was correct and up to date, and speak to the authorized firm. It added there could be serious consequences if it got any facts wrong, and delays could be the result of further checks. A spokesperson for the FCA added, last year the FCA received over 18,000 reports of potential unauthorized business activity from consumers, firms, and other sources. We analyze and assess all of these reports. Last year, we published 504 warnings about potentially fraudulent firms. Before we publish a warning about a cloned firm, we must be certain that the